When it comes to large three-row crossovers, Kia hasn't really had a solid entry in this segment. I mean, sure, they tried about 10 years ago with the Borrego, which was a truck-based body-on-frame crossover or SUV that kind of had a little bit less interior space than most of the competition. Of course, they followed it up later with the three-row Sorento, but that vehicle was always a little bit smaller than most of the direct competition in this segment, which is why I'm out here at Gateway, Colorado, on my way to Telluride, Colorado, to drive arguably the most important launch for Kia in the new model year. This is the all-new 2020 Kia Telluride, a new premium three-row crossover designed to go head-to-head with the likes of the Honda Pilot, the Ford Explorer, and the Toyota Highlander. But the big question I want answered, is this all-new Kia Telluride the new three-row crossover to beat? That's what we're here to find out. So when you look at the large three-row crossover segment, this particular area is really starting to get crowded with a lot of new entries. Basically, Americans don't want minivans anymore, so they're starting to replace those minivans with SUVs. And technically, one of the first entries was the Honda Pilot, the Toyota Highlander, and Kia really has been absent from the segment for quite some time until now. And I have to say, the all-new 2020 Telluride is definitely a really great step in the right direction. It has a bold design that's really going to stand out in that mall parking lot that's kind of crowded with all these crossover SUVs. You can see, just like the Stinger, it has a very distinctive look. Obviously, you've got the Tiger Nose grille. It's going to be dominating the front end of this vehicle. It's probably the largest Tiger Nose grille I've seen on any Kia. The Tiger Nose grille is actually mimicked on the windshield as well. It's kind of a cool design trait that I didn't even really notice if you look at the shape of the windshield. And then if you look at the actual headlight assemblies of the Tellurides, projector halogens are going to be standard, actually. This SX trim, which is the top of the line, is the only trim to get full LED headlights with an amber illuminated LED daytime running light, LED turn signals, and then LED fog lights down here, which are a little bit aftermarket looking. They're a little tacked on. I'm surprised that Kia didn't integrate them a little bit better. I'm a little sad to see that Kia didn't include LED headlights or HIDs on the lower trims. You have to get this top trim model, but if you do, gosh, this thing really does look good. A lot of you have actually compared it to a Range Rover, Cadillac Escalade, which I actually do see some resemblance, especially when you see the Telluride name kind of inscripted along the hood over here. The hood itself even has these really nice bulges. It's a very rugged looking vehicle, yet it's also refined, kind of the way that the Stinger is. It's sleek but refined. Kia's been doing a really good job with the overall design of this vehicle. Now, the wheel choices, with a vehicle this big, you need to have good size wheels, and 18-inch wheels are going to be standard if you guys go for the LX and the EX trims. The S and the SX will have 20-inch wheels. The SX, as you can see, has these black finish wheels on 245/50 series tires. I don't particularly love the way the wheels look, but I do like the black finish. It's kind of going with the trend. Now, unlike the Sorento or even the Borrego, this is the biggest SUV that Kia has ever produced. Its wheelbase at 114 inches long is about 3 inches longer than a Honda Pilot, and around 196.9 inches long, 197 basically. This is actually 4 inches longer than the Borrego, which was, again, a big vehicle for its time. This is rightly around the same size as like the Subaru Ascent and the Volkswagen Atlas, which again are new hot SUVs for the 2019 model year. Now you can see the rear quarter panel has kind of a very traditional SUV look. It's a very boxy shape. It's very rugged. Kia actually says this has about 8 inches of ground clearance, so it has the off-road capability if you guys want to take this, even though this is, remember, a 3-row car-based SUV with a fully independent suspension. Now at the back, you can see here, the design is equally distinctive. It has these inverted LED taillights, which are kind of looking like an LED or inverted L. They definitely make this thing look really nice. Unlike its sister vehicle, the Hyundai Palisade, I think the Telluride actually looks better from the front and the rear, even though the two vehicles ride on the same platform. You have a couple of things here that are similar to the front. You're going to have the Telluride kind of inscripted along the back. There's an SX V6 badge. There's an all-wheel drive badge. And then down here, you can see there's kind of like a skid plate looking rear garnish trim for the bumper. And then you have the twin outlet exhaust, which comes standard on the S trims and up. Overall, I kind of wish that Kia had made the exhaust a dual on each setup. But again, overall, it kind of tries to make this thing look a little bit more premium, a little bit more rugged, which is definitely a great thing. Now, when you get to the cargo area, obviously there's also a smart foot-activated power liftgate, and it actually moves really fast. You can adjust the speed of this to a normal or a fast, like I have it setting here. And then, unlike the Sorento or a lot of the other competitors, Kia rates the space here as pretty much almost class-leading. With the third row seat up, you're going to get around 21 cubic feet of space. Now, if you want to fold down this third row seat, which, by the way, the Hyundai Palisade, its sister vehicle, which I haven't driven yet, has a power folding third row seat. As you can see here, it's not available on the Telluride, which actually surprised me since Kia usually is the more premium offering. Fold down the third row seat, you're going to get around 46 cubic feet of space. And then if you want to fold down the second row seat as well, which you can actually do from this button right here, Kia says that you're going to get around 87 cubic feet of space. Now that is a little bit more space than what you're going to get in the Honda Pilot and the Toyota Highlander and the Subaru Ascent, but you're going to get a little bit more space in something like the Chevy Traverse or the Volkswagen Atlas, which is considerably larger than this vehicle. So Kia did a really good job with the exterior of the new Telluride, but let's hop into the interior because that's probably the more important aspect of a family crossover. The first thing I want to talk about here is the key fob. It's basically the same key that I showed you on the Stinger, on the new Forte. It's a really nice key. You have your lock, unlock. You can open up the tailgate, and then there's a panic mode. The key itself is a good size. This intelligent access key is actually standard across the board, so even if you get the base LX trim, it'll come standard with the push-button smart key. Now, as you approach the door handle of the Telluride, you can see, like all the other Kia products, there's a black button here. You touch that button here, the mirrors will fold in and it'll also lock the cars. When you want to unlock it, there's no sensor in the back of the handle. You just have to touch the button again and that unlocks the door for you. Now, as you can see, my fully loaded SX trim with the Prestige package has a beige leather interior. This is actually the full Napa leather and they're heated and cooled. The seats actually look really nice. They're kind of double stitched. Kia also offers like a black leather and a brown leather for those of you who'd like. The interior itself makes a really great first impression. I mean, this is definitely a much more luxury car-like interior. I mean, if you compare this thing to like things like the Acura MDX or even an Audi Q7, I would say that this feels just as expensive as those cars. You can see the materials. There's some simulated wood, simulated metal. It kind of is echoed throughout the door panels as well. You have two-person memory seats. The seats themselves are a 10-way power adjustment with the heated and cooled function, as I said. Now, stepping inside the Telluride, it has the perfect step-in height because this is, again, a crossover, which is what Americans really love. Now, let's shut the door of the vehicle. And it sounds really solid. This is an updated platform that's on the new Santa Fe. So again, it adds to the overall impression of quality with this vehicle. Now, as I said, push button start is standard. The SX trim also gives you the alloy pedals down there. So all you have to do is put your foot on the brake, push this button here to fire up the engine. Now, if you guys have seen the gauges in the new Stinger, these gauges are pretty much identical to what you get in the Stinger. There's a 7-inch LCD display there in the center, which basically shows you a lot of different information. You can kind of show the all-wheel drive system. You can change your settings. That 7-inch display, however, is only included if you guys go for the SX trim. The lower trims will have a 3.5-inch display, roughly half the size of that. So I'm surprised Kia makes you get, again, the top-of-the-line trim to get all the features. Now, in terms of the rest of this layout, I love the new 10.25-inch Kia, Uconnect or Uvo infotainment system. Uconnect is FCA. I apologize for that. The dashboard here, as you can see here, is all soft touch graining materials. It's got some faux stitching along the upper portion over here. This wood, when you touch it, it definitely feels fake, but it looks beautiful. It looks real. Same with the aluminum look trim here. This actually looks like metal. I thought it was metal until Kia said that it's actually a faux simulated metal, which really surprised me. You can see very nice layout to the actual dashboard here. You have these 4 knobs right here for your dual zone climate. You can see heated steering wheel and then heated and cooled seats down here, which is, again, you can actually get the ventilated seats on the EX trims and up, but if you want the second row ventilated seats, you have to get this SX with the Prestige package. Now, looking at the door panels, you can see It's also soft touch. You have that aluminum accented door handle, 2-person memory. The windows are one-touch automatic for all 4. I very much expected that in this vehicle. You can also power fold the mirrors right there from this little button over here. You have a nice little padded area here for the armrest. There's a big space right here for a grab handle. You can also put some stuff in here. The Harman Kardon stereo is a 10-speaker, 630-watt stereo system. It sounded fantastic. It is actually standard on the SX trim. I think it's available on the EX trim. I'll have to double check that, but really nice sound system. Again, adds to the whole premium ambiance. Now, coming to the steering wheel, I don't like the way the steering wheel looks in this car. It actually reminds me a lot of a minivan, or the Kia Sorento has this steering wheel. I kind of wish Kia gave us a wheel that was a little bit smaller, maybe like a flat bottom design, but you do have some faux stitching on the airbag cover. All your usual controls are here for your cruise control, your volume controls. This vehicle does have the Drive Wise package as standard, so all your active driver assistance, adaptive cruise control, stop and go is standard equipment. Kia says this car is actually the most tech-oriented car in terms of driver assistance. It has some new features like the highway driving assist, where this car will actively keep you in the lane. Kia says it's actually a level 2 driver assistance, which hasn't been certified by the government, just certified by them. Now, this head-up display, as you can see, looks really great. It's only on the SX trim, so again, you have to go for that high trim to get that. Now, coming to the center stack here, this infotainment system is basically the latest version of the Kia Evo infotainment system. You can also swipe it over to the left and right. You can see there's Apple Carplay. If you guys want to go to Apple Carplay, it also, takes up a really good amount of space on the screen here. And there's also a couple of new features. Driver Talk, for example, you turn that on and you can literally hear my voice all the way in the back. It's basically what Kia had in the, it's what Honda offers in the Odyssey, and Toyota also offers it. It's really cool when you really just want to tell your kids to shut up when they're being annoying in the back seat. So again, a really great feature for parents. Quiet mode is kind of the opposite. It will mute the sound in the rear seats and play the music coming from the front seats only. So in case like I'm driving and I've got kids back there that are sleeping, this is a good way for me to be able to play my music without disturbing the kids in the back. So again, really cool features. Those are segment first features, and I think a lot of buyers are going to really appreciate that. Now, looking at the GPS display here, you can see this is the same navigation system we've seen Kia use for a while. They've definitely beefed up the speed. It works just like a tablet, and the graphics look okay. It's, again, nothing's really super special here. Now, going to the media system here, you can see your presets are on this side. It's a touchscreen. It's very responsive. And then if you want, you can go again to Apple CarPlay, which again, let me unlock my phone, which, by the way, wireless phone charging is actually standard equipment on the EX trims and up. But when you finally open up your phone, you can see here, there's the Apple CarPlay. You can basically allow you to pull up Waze if you guys don't want to use the GPS system that Kia puts on their vehicles. Now, when you put the vehicle into reverse, you can see here it does have a 360-degree camera system, which is standard on the SX trim only. You have to get this top trim to get the 360 camera. Really great resolution. It's pretty much class competitive. Some competitors offer a little bit, nicer. If you guys go for the luxury package, you can see it's got front and rear parking sensors, which is, again, pretty nice. You can also change the view to the front camera. There's different views you can go to, a top-down view as well, a corner view, so you can see the wheels when you guys are parallel parking this thing, so you don't curve the wheels and whatnot. So again, really great features. A lot of buyers are going to really appreciate it, and it has all the stuff that you really expect in this segment. Now, a couple other things I want to talk about. There's a lot to talk about with this interior. Kia does offer mood lighting in this vehicle. You can actually choose it between 64 different colors of light in this car. So this is where you would go to change the actual color in here. And you can see there's basically 8 preset colors if you guys go for the baser trims, but if you want to do a custom color, this is where, again, the SX trim allows you to do 64 different colors of ambient light, which can get a little overwhelming, but again, it's a premium feature that a lot of competitors don't necessarily offer this level of customization. And customization, again, is king in the luxury space. So again, it's all adding to that level of quality. Now, down here, you can see there is actually a nice little area right here where you have your wireless phone charger, you have your USB over there, a standard power outlet, your heated and cooled seats, as I said. This controls the Kia-designed 8-speed automatic transmission. It's a really great transmission. You have a manual mode over here, and then no paddles on the wheel. This controls your drive mode selector. Kia offers actually 5 different drive modes, from Comfort, Sport, Smart, Eco, and then Snow mode. And then you can see here, whenever you change it, it shows a little representation on the screen. There's also a lock feature for the all-wheel drive system. Kia says when it's in its standard settings, it'll divert about 25 to 30% of the power to the rear. It can also lock it 50-50. If you guys are stuck, you need to get out of tight situations. No low range transfer case. Remember, this is just a car-based SUV. You have your auto start stop button here, electronic parking brake. You can also turn on the 360 camera. if you guys like, from a little button over here. Dual cup holders. This actually is a very wide center console. I like the grab handles here, which are stitched in leather, but the interior feels roomy. Unlike the Mazda CX-9, which I just got out of, this feels very open and very airy, which is great. Now the center console, you can see it's a nice deep bin. There's another separate storage over there. It's nice and padded. This doesn't actually adjust, which it doesn't really need to, but the seats, I also find them to be very comfortable and supportive. Love the premium Napa leather. They're also heated and cooled, as I said. Really comfortable seats. On long drive, we've been driving this car about 200 miles today. It's been really comfortable. Above you, just a standard size sunroof for the passengers, but you do have a dual moonroof for the rear seat. This only comes on the SX trim. All the other trims, if you guys go for an S and up, will just have this sunroof, not that actual portion in the back. The glove compartment, you can see, is actually a little on the smaller side. It is damped and lined with felt, but Kia kind of took away a little bit of the space, but you have plenty of other space over here. The SX also has this really nice mouse fur-like headliner, which feels expensive. You have all LED lighting throughout the cabin, which again adds to the level of quality. And overall, Kia really knocked it out of the park with this interior. I actually think I like it more than the Palisade, although I haven't really done a full review of that vehicle yet because it's not available. But I have to say, they've really raised the bar. This is nicer than what you get in the Honda Pilot. It's pretty much Volkswagen Atlas-like, but it feels a lot more premium. It has that premium feel that the Mazda CX-9 has, but it doesn't compromise you on the actual interior space. So as the biggest Kia SUV ever, when you get into the second row of the Telluride, a lot of families are going to really like what they see. Now, first of all, this SX trim that I'm showing you does come standard with the captain's chairs. It also limits the actual seating capacity to 7 as opposed to 8. If you guys want the 8-passenger seating capacity, you have to step down from the SX to the EX or the S trim. Kia says they are toying with the idea of allowing the 8-passenger configuration to be available on the SX. I hope they do, because some people really want all the features and they want the 8-passenger seating capacity. Now, just like the front seat, this actually may be a better place to sit because the legroom is massive. 42 inches of legroom back here is practically matching that of the front seats. You can see the floor here is almost completely flat. So if you do have the 8-passenger model, you can actually fit 3 people across. You can see there's good foot space over here. I'm 5'7", I'm short, but I mean, I wouldn't hesitate to sit back here on a very long trip. It's basically as comfortable as the front seats. They also do slide forward and back. They also recline as well. It is just a manual recline. Now, a couple of unexpected features in this car is the fact that this one with the Prestige package has heated and ventilated seats in the second row. This is probably the first vehicle in the segment to offer it. The sister vehicle, the Palisade, will also offer that when it does go on sale later on. And then if you also are looking around the vehicle, you'll find there's a panoramic sunroof above you that lets in light. This actually doesn't open. You have your own set of rear seat climate control vents. It's kind of like a minivan in here with the ceiling mounted vents. You have your LED lighting here. You have the actual controls for the climate control. And then you'll have 2 USB ports that are mounted in the door packets here. You have cup holders there. You have another regular household power outlet over there. And then you have dual map pockets. And then you also get the manual rear seat sunshades, which again add to the overall premium ambience of this vehicle. Now, of course, the second row is always really nice, but the biggest test with this segment is the third row. So let's hop back there and see how that space actually works for adults. So accessing the third row in this segment has always been a little bit of a problem in this segment. And to address that, Kia has taken a page out of Honda's book with accessing the third row. There's a button here on the top, or there's a button here on the bottom. If you push this button, you can see the seat kind of hydraulically moves forward to leave you with a pretty good amount of space to actually get into the third row. And as you can see, because this vehicle is about 3 inches wider than the Sorento, you can actually put 3 people across, which is why this is available with 8-passenger seating. So let me get back there to entertain you guys and see how the space is. And surprisingly, unlike the Sorento, which is really only reserved for kids, now I have this seat all the way back. This is all the way back to give this passenger 42 inches of legroom. Kia says there's about 31 inches of legroom back here, which is actually about the same as what you get in a Corolla hatch, the new Corolla hatch. And I have to say, if you just scoot the seat up a little bit forward, I'm very comfortable back here. My knees are a little bit up. Right now with it all the way back, they kind of hit this just ever so slightly, but I have pretty good headroom here. The panoramic sunroof lets in a lot of light. And then in terms of features, there's actually a USB port back here. There's 2 USB ports, and then Kia actually allows this rear seat to recline. So that's a really cool feature that also was carried over from the Palisade. Now in terms of materials, it's also hard touch plastic back here, but there's actually 2 cup holders on each side. So overall, if you have to actually carry adults in here, as long as they're under 6 feet, they'll actually find plenty to like in the third row of the Telluride. So under the hood of the all-new Telluride, you're actually going to have one of the bigger engines in the segment. And unfortunately, you're only going to get one engine choice, which is actually a good engine choice. It's the company's 3.8-liter gasoline direct injection V6. It's a naturally aspirated V6. No turbos here, no four-cylinder like what you get in some of the competition. And it makes pretty decent numbers, 291 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque. That's more horsepower than what you're going to get in the Volkswagen Atlas, the Subaru Sense, the Honda Pilot. But the Toyota Highlander and the Chevy Traverse does offer a little bit more power than this, so it's a little bit more mid-pack. Now, what really surprises me is Kia actually has a 3.3-liter V6 in the Sorento, which makes 290 horsepower as well. So this only has 1 more horsepower and about 10 more foot-pounds of torque than the smaller 3.3-liter engine. Some of you have actually asked, why didn't Kia use the 3.3-liter twin-turbo from the Stinger? That would have been nice, but I'm imagining that motor might be saved for a future Genesis product. Remember, Kia doesn't have a luxury brand like Hyundai does. The sister vehicle for this car has the same motor. Now, fuel economy is rated at 20 in the city, 26 on the highway with front-wheel drive. This all-wheel drive model is rated at 1924. Not exactly class-leading, but it's kind of very mid-pack. The Toyota Highlander and the Honda Pilot get about 1 or 2 mpg better, respectively. Now, if you guys are planning to tow, this is an SUV. It tows about 5,000 pounds, which is very competitive. And as this one sits, it weighs around 4,400 pounds, just under 4,500 pounds. So it's pretty much on the lighter end of the segment. It's about the same weight as a Honda Pilot. And it all goes out through an 8-speed automatic transmission. Now, keep in mind, I am out here in Colorado where it is at elevation, so it's going to affect the power, but let's get out on the road and see how this combination all performs. So one of the most requested vehicles I have gotten from you guys is the all-new Kia Telluride, and I've been waiting patiently to drive this thing. Kia annoyingly had them go on sale about a month before the actual media drive, but since I was coming out here, I wasn't going to go to a dealership to go drive this car. I wanted to actually drive it here on the media drive on our way to Telluride, Colorado. And I have to say, first driving the new Telluride, I'm going to actually pronounce it properly this time. I know you guys were making fun of me in the first look where I kept calling it the Telluride. It's the Telluride again. But this thing pretty much lives up to my expectations on how a large family crossover should drive. The overall impression is just refinement. It's smooth, it's quiet, it's easy to drive. It doesn't feel quite as big as its size would suggest, because remember, this is the biggest SUV that Kia has ever done. It's bigger than the Borrego by almost 4 inches. It's bigger than the Sorento by about 8 inches. So this is true, like, more full-size SUV capability. And some of you have actually compared it to things like an Expedition or an Escalade. It's not an Expedition or an Escalade. This is a car-based SUV. It feels a lot easier to drive than those vehicles, and you're going to notice it when you first start, handling this thing on some of these curvy roads. The Telluride feels like a car, but just kind of a more rugged, more what's the word I'm looking for? It's just a much more substantial feeling car. It just feels like a heavy car. It feels like a European car in the sense that I'm driving. I actually think it drives a lot better than the Volkswagen Atlas. Sportier feeling than something like the Traverse for sure. It kind of blends the lines or blurs the lines between a Honda Pilot and the Toyota Highlander. It has car-like qualities, but it has a nice substantial feel that I think a lot of buyers who like European cars are really going to appreciate when they first set behind the wheel. Now, the visibility in here is also quite good. The hood is nice and low. The pillars here are surprisingly thin. You have these big side mirrors with all the driver assistance stuff. Kia actually has this really cool feature where if you signal left or right, just like on the K900, the Telluride gives you a little bit of a display there in the center stack, kind of like what Honda does with the lane watch feature, but unlike Honda's, Kia actually puts the camera on both sides. So every time you signal left or right, it shows you what's in your blind spot. It also has things like blind spot collision intervention, where if it senses you're going to crash, like changing lanes or somebody coming, the car will actually use brakes, use steering to kind of keep you from actually hitting people when you guys are driving this thing. But the ride quality is also really good. I think that it rides really comfortably, even on 20-inch wheels. It's surprisingly quiet in here. Kia has made sure this is, again, a premium vehicle. It kind of has that specialness that I felt in the Stinger, which is, again, a really important aspect considering this is the company's flagship vehicle. You want to have that specialness carry on when you're driving the flagship car. The seats also, I find them to be really comfortable. They're supportive. I love the fact that they're heated and cooled. I love the heated steering wheel. It's got all the premium features that I expect, but you have to get this top-of-the-line SX trim, which can be a little bit annoying for those of you who don't want to spend the money, but Kia has priced this vehicle out very well. So going in line with more of its family car mission, the steering feel in this car is rather class average, I'd say. There's a decent amount of feel coming out through the wheels. It's got a good amount of heft to it, But again, this is not the sportiest entry. That's going to go to the Mazda CX-9 and the Subaru Ascent. That feels a little bit more nimble, but those cars aren't quite as wide, although while the Mazda is longer than this vehicle, but Kia has definitely tuned the Telluride to feel a little bit more like a family vehicle. It's a little bit softer, which is, again, I think better for this segment of vehicle, because you want a ride that's really soft, you want a ride that's comfortable, you want an interior that's quiet, because again, you're going to be putting in a lot of kids, a lot of people in the backseat of this car. Now, this does only come with a 3.8 liter V6 engine. I'm going to put this car into its sport mode. Now, we are at elevation here, so keep that in mind. This makes 291 horsepower. It's got the start stop, but let me turn that off. And let's try to brake torque it a little bit. This one is all-wheel drive. Spun the tires a little bit. Now, I did notice that the transmission kind of shifted a little harshly when it first went from first to second gear. I'm not entirely sure why. I had it in its sport mode. Remember, this is a Kia designed transmission. Other than that, the acceleration feels mostly adequate. I'll have to wait until I drive this thing back on my local roads in DC because we are at elevation over here. But you know, Kia doesn't really have an official 0 to 60 time. Out here, it felt like around 8.5 seconds. I imagine it's going to be a second quicker when we're not at elevation. So again, I'll have to drive this thing back when I get it back home. This is relatively competitive acceleration, but the turbo engine cars do feel quicker because this is a little bit light on torque. 262 pound-feet of torque at like 4,500 RPM. That is, you know, you do have to rev the engine out, but luckily, I don't really mind doing that because the engine is very smooth. It's very refined. It's actually a lot quieter than the motor in the Honda Pilot, which kind of screams with the VTEC. But let me do another acceleration run. I'm not going to brake torque it this time to see if the transmission shifts as harshly as it did. And I'm going to put it into just its smart mode here, so just regular driving. Good response. And it was smoother there instead of brake torquing it. But the smart mode kind of will adjust the drive mode based on how heavy I'm putting my foot down, because right now it's lighting up as red, so it knows that I'm driving aggressively, and it puts it into the sport mode automatically. And as soon as I lift off the throttle, it starts to kind of go back to a comfort-oriented setting or an eco setting, and it'll start to quiet back down. Now, at 70 miles an hour, this thing looks like it's going to be revving at around 1,500 RPM, 65, I'm at 1,500 RPM. So again, this is an 8-speed auto, really good in terms of refinement. It's got the perfect amount of gears. I know some competitors are moving to a 9-speed, maybe even a 10-speed. Kia's 8-speed is still very class competitive. It has smooth and refined shifts, and I think a lot of people are going to like that overall. Now, most people are probably going to be driving the Telluride in on-road conditions. Remember, this is not a body-on-frame truck-based SUV like the Borrego, but it does have 8 inches of ground clearance. You have this big commanding view of the road, and you have a very capable all-wheel drive system. As you can see, the road is slightly damped here. The system does a really good job at just appropriating the power to the right set of wheels to give this car the traction it needs. It barely will slip. It just feels very confident. But we're out here on our way to Telluride, and there are a couple of off-road areas you could go to. Kia actually did set one up, so we are going to try to get some footage of this thing off-road. I imagine most of you are not going to do that, but since we have the ability, or since we have the opportunity, we're going to do some quick off-road driving. So let's cue over to that real quick. So to show off some of the Telluride's off-road capability, Kia had us drive down this muddy road, which is honestly maybe a little bit more challenging than just a dirt road. It's been raining here for the past couple of hours, so it's a little bit on the muddier side. So we're going to just see how this thing rides. I'm going to basically just be judging the four-wheel drive system, how it handles, and the ride quality on these somewhat bumpier roads. But I'm going to turn the traction control off, which it's off. Let's see if I can get the wheels to spin at least. Ooh, the back end definitely likes to step out. It's a lot muddier, so I'm going to be a little bit more cautious until I figure out how exactly slippery this thing is. Just the traction control. We're going to actually just drive around with the traction control off. I'm going to leave the stability control on just to save my ass in case I decide to lose the back end or lose the grip and have this thing spin. We don't want that. You're right, it is very muddy and slippery. I was like, oh. So I have to say, I am a tad disappointed with the actual capability of this road. It's really just more of a dirt road that's become muddy because of the rain. Not really much in terms of rock crawling or testing out the ground clearance, but this car only has 8 inches of ground clearance, which is a good amount, but you have to remember it's got these street Michelin tires on it. It's got big 20-inch wheels. So it's not like a Jeep. It's not like a 4Runner or anything like that. It's just going to be handling this is probably the most that I think owners will probably push this car, is they'll just drive down a dirt road to get to their home and whatnot, especially out here in Colorado. But there are a couple of river crossings and big deep puddles and stuff, but overall I'm just noticing that, you know, the smooth ride quality on the road translates very nicely out here because the suspension really soaks up the bumps. Now, I did notice that it's a little difficult to feel where the limits are on this car just because the suspension and the steering is a little bit on the number side. But I think once you kind of get past the fact that this is just a family SUV, it's not like a sports car, you're just gonna have to be a little bit more cautious when you're hustling this thing around some corners. Yeah, my only wish is that it was a wider road so I can get the back end to step out, but I'm a little nervous because it's very, very muddy and the mud feels like ice at times.
Oh, there's mud all over my sleeve now.
Yeah, let me just see if I can get what this feels like from a stop, and I'm gonna floor it with the traction control off. And this will really test out the all-wheel drive system and how much power it sends to the rear wheels. Barely any slippage. So remember, in sport mode like this, it'll send up to 50% of the torque to the back wheels, and really there's just no drama. This is what people really want when you have an SUV like this. You want to be able to just feel like the car will keep going, like you're not going to crash or anything or get stuck. There's ABS intervention there. Remember, it's very slippery out here. So we're coming up on this little teeny tiny creek crossing. My camera guy is gonna go get some footage of it driving through there. But again, this isn't really anything super challenging. I feel like a lot of the comments from you guys, my Honda Civic or my Ford Taurus can probably get through that. You're probably right, although you wouldn't wanna get your beautiful car all muddy out on these conditions, especially this white car. It just shows dirt really badly. Oh my God. Thank you for not slipping, Rob. So 8 inches of ground clearance. Let's make some waves. Oh yeah, oh. Oh yeah, I think that's the best part. Ooh, there's a little smoke because I got the engine manifold probably a little wet, but that's okay. So obviously the Telluride can handle a quick little muddy dirt-filled road and maybe some light off-roading. I mean, this is probably the most you guys are going to push your Telluride through, but it's good to know that it's got a really good four-wheel drive system. It's got really good ground clearance, and it likes to step out its back end unexpectedly when you're trying to just get through. But let's get back on the road because that's probably where most of you are going to be driving your Telluride anyways. So even though most people will probably never take their Telluride into those kinds of conditions, which honestly they weren't even all that bad, The tires are what's limiting this car, the fact that it doesn't have any skid plates and the big 20-inch wheels. So again, for those of you who do actually want to take this thing off-road, I imagine you might put a more meatier set of tires on this thing, and then maybe even look to the aftermarket to add some skid plates. But it does have a fair amount of ground clearance at 8 inches. It's pretty good. It's about an inch higher than what you're going to get in a lot of the competition. So it's nice to know that the Telluride is capable to go off-road, but back here on pavement, it's got a very smooth ride quality. It's got, you know, really good visibility. It's really quiet on the inside. It has a decent amount of power. I wish Kia maybe put the twin turbo engine from the Stinger in this car? Sure. I mean, why wouldn't you want more power? But I'm imagining that kind of motor is going to be reserved for Genesis. Remember, that's Hyundai's luxury division, which is again kind of shared with Kia. The Genesis SUV will most likely have the turbo engine, but as this one sits, it's got good power. It's got a really, you know, luxury interior. And I think a lot of people who are looking in this segment are going to find a lot to like with the Telluride when they actually start driving this thing and looking at all the features. So with so much competition in the large three-row crossover segment, it's kind of hard to believe that there's yet another choice for buyers if you're actually looking for a family vehicle. Don't forget that for 2020, there'll be this available, and then Hyundai's coming out with the Palisade, which is, again, the sister vehicle to the all-new Telluride. So after spending the day driving the all-new 2020 Telluride, where does it fit in the marketplace, and has Kia successfully delivered a vehicle that is designed to take away the crown from the sales leaders like the Ford Explorer, the Honda Pilot, and the Toyota Highlander? Well, I'm happy to report that the Telluride is probably the most surprising SUV that I've had the chance to drive for the 2019 model year. Its design is rugged yet refined. It has an interior that is just filled with tech. It's filled with luxury. It's filled with room. It's ridiculously practical, and I love the fact that Kia has packaged it in a wrapper that's really well priced. That's the one thing that Kia has always been excelling at, is that's delivering a lot of value for money, and that really continues with the all-new Telluride. Now, in terms of the cons, there's a couple of issues. Obviously, it's not the sportiest driving vehicle. Some of you may not like the styling of the car, and I also don't like how Kia kind of makes you buy the top-of-the-line SX trim to get all of the premium features that I think really should come standard, where a lot of competitors do make those features as standard, like the LED headlights. But overall, if you're actually looking to purchase a 2020 Kia Telluride, this vehicle has actually already been on sale. It's been on sale for about a month, and Kia says dealers are ecstatic with this car because it's been a really hot car for Kia. They said that in terms of sales, in the first month of sales, it's actually already exceeded the Dodge Durango, the Mazda CX-9, the Buick Enclave, and the Volkswagen Atlas, and they're pretty much nipping at the sales figures for the all-new Subaru Ascent. As this one starts at the base LX trim with front-wheel drive, you're going to pay around $31,690. Now, compared to Kia's own Sorento, that is about $5,000 more expensive, but keep in mind this is about 8 inches bigger, and it also has a V6 engine as standard. It's just a much better looking vehicle overall. Now, if you guys are going to want all-wheel drive, that's a $2,000 option to move up to the all-wheel drive. The S trim is about another $2,000 extra, and then the EX trim, which Kia expects to be the volume player, will be around $37,000. Now, as this one sits, the SX trim with all-wheel drive starts at around $43,490. That's actually a really fair amount of money, considering I've seen fully loaded versions of the Chevrolet Traverse, the Buick Enclave, the Ford Explorer, and the Honda Pilot basically surpass $50,000 on the higher end. This one with the Prestige package that adds the heated and cooled second row seats, the head-up display, stickers for around $47,700, with the extra charge being the white pearl paint. There is a tow package that my tester is missing for another $800 that would push this around $48,000, which again still is a really strong value. And I think Kia dealers are going to continue to have a really hot seller on their hands. In fact, I was looking up the actual transaction price of the vehicle. Apparently, people have been paying over sticker for this car ever since it came out about a month ago. But I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the 2020 Kia Telluride. If you're looking for a large three-row SUV and you don't have this one on your list, you're really doing yourself a disservice. But if you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video. Entering the market, giving buyers, again, another choice. Don't forget, this is going to be the... Sorry. Oh, okay. I know you're about to say that. I was like, hold on, I was waiting for that van to drive by because I was like, okay, the noise. Okay,
when you're ready.
So with so much competition in the large three-row crossover segment, it's kind of hard to believe that I'm gonna get this.
This is harsh. horseshit.
No, that's not horseshit.
That's horseshit.